Hey everybody, in today's video I'm going to show you how you can use Excel's different rounding functions to round up, round down, and even round to different multiples. So here I've got some random values that I've generated using Excel's random number generator. And what I'm going to want to do is round these values different ways. So first I'm going to create a column to round down to 3 decimal places, round up to 2 decimal places, round to just 1 decimal place, multiple of 5, and multiple of 10. So I'll expand these out so it's easier to read this. And so if we want to round down to 3 decimal places, there's a round down function. And so regardless of what the normal rounding rules are, it's always going to round down 3 decimal places. Pretty self-explanatory. So you can see 191, 1914, it rounded down to 191. And in this case, 2.7148, even though there was an 8 here at the end, it rounded down to the 4. So as you would expect that it's going to round down. Round up works similar way, where we specify that, except this time I'm going to put 2 digits. And so regardless of the case, in this case we had 0.19, it rounded to 0.2, even though this number was a 1 after the 9. So you can see it's going to always force a round up. Now if you just want the default rounding rules where you round up if it's a 5 or greater, round down if it's a 4 or less, then you can just use the round function. In which case you select the value. In this case I'm going to round to 1 decimal place. Enter, copy, down. So you can see with the 9 we rounded up to the 2, 71.24, so we rounded down to 71.2. So depending on the rounding that you want to do, if you always want to round down, use a round down, round up, and there's also just the regular round function. Now another cool option you can use is the rounding to a different multiple. So let's say m round is what it's called. So returns a number rounded to the desired multiple. So in this case we have 47.194. So automatically this is going to drop any decimal places. So this would be the same as if you were to round to 0 decimal places. So if you want to round to a multiple of 5, automatically it's going to go to the nearest multiple of 5. So 47 is closer to 45 than it is to 50. Copy this down. 71 is closer to 70 than it is to 75. In the case of 2.7, that was closer to 5 than to 0. And so you can see the pattern here that it's automatically just going to go to the nearest multiple. The same sort of thing for a multiple of 10. We can do m round and select the multiple of 10. So this can be useful if you're plotting minimums and maximums for a chart and you don't want these, you don't want a minimum value that's going to be an odd number like this. So you could potentially do something where you take a minimum value of this, right? Let's say 2.7148. You don't want to plot that on a chart. So what you could do is use the m round function to say, okay, let's go to the nearest multiple of 5, which is going to be 5. And the same thing for the max function. Let's say we want to see what's the range that we want here, 99, right? So again, we can use the m round function to a multiple of 10. So it's going to make it a bit cleaner going from a range of 5 to 100 versus, 2.7148 to 99.4626. So obviously makes it a bit easier that way if you want to chart a graph out or some sort of visual, because it makes it easier to set up that axis. So rounding to the nearest multiples can be useful, especially when you're using charts. So that's a quick overview of the different rounding functions in Excel. As you can see, they're fairly easy to use. If you want to change them, obviously you can just change any sort of decimal points. If you want to round this to 0, just change it to 0 and it's not going to pick up any decimals. So it's a lot of flexibility and really easy to use, especially the multiples, which can be very handy if you're using this with charts.